Paul. I'm going to be trying a new type of video here. I'm going to call Eyes on the Text. So, so much podcasting and blogging is people talking to people, people telling you their ideas, and that's great, and even there's so many that are talking about the Bible. But even there, you're probably getting a lot of people's ideas about the Bible and not getting your eyes on the text itself. So I'm just going to try a thing I'm going to call Eyes on the Text, and I'm going to mess around with this. We're going to look at some Bible together and just see where it leads. And I'd love to do this with other people. So if this works, I'm going to probably try to bring on people and do conversations with people, but while we're looking at the text together. So I'd love for you to leave comments, any sort of ideas that you have, or thoughts, questions, or if I miss something, or you disagree with something, hey, leave a comment. And just where are we going to start? I don't really care. But I'm going to go to Ephesians 2. Now you're going to see I'm using Logos Bible software here. I am using a slightly outdated version of it, just in case you care. They have a Logos 10 out, and I have me on Logos 8 right now. I just not at a place where I can spend the money to upgrade this thing, but I do have a lot of investment in the text here. So I do read some Greek. I must say it's a little bit rusty. But sometimes I'm able to find some help in this, and I'm not going to try to get real nerdy here, but we're going to look at a few things, and you'll see a little bit of how you can use Logos Bible software. But the real idea is to keep our eyes on the text here. So, and I'm still learning a lot of the functionality of the software. I'm not an expert. So, I'm doing my Bible memory, which is something I'm just really into for forming myself in Christ, changing the way that I think and feel and act. And, it's just been a real rich part of my life. I have a topical, big topic I made here that I just called 1A Newer, which just has a bunch of my newer verses. I'm slowly working through my peg system of one verse in each chapter of the Old Testament. I've already done the New Testament. And, going through Jeremiah here. These are some of the verses I'm working on. And I just made this so that I could just work on these verses that are newer to me. Meanwhile, I'm plugging away through the Psalms. So I have a whole bunch of these Psalms in here. And then a bunch of random verses that, a lot of these are spiritual warfare related because I just read a book on demonology and I'm asking a lot of questions. And found it really rich to get all these verses. And somewhere along the way, in Ephesians chapter 2, that's where I was going to go to, there's this big chunk that I threw in here into the Bible memory app, Ephesians 2, 1-5. And so let's just look at that together. I'm going to switch back over here to Logos. As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins. Now, I'm memorizing out of the New International Version, the newer version of it, and I like it as a translation, even though, it does sometimes, enter into interpreting the passage for you. But, at the end of the day, this is the way I speak English. I don't speak English like the New American Standard Version, which I was raised on. Going back to it now, it feels really wooden. So, here we are. As for you, we see that here's the end of chapter 1. God placed all things under his feet, which is the body, fills everything in every way. Now, as for you, this glorious thing about Christ up here in chapter 1, you were dead, it says, totally dead. Necros. Think of the English word necropolis, the city of the dead, or big funeral, or big graveside. You were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live. So, transgressions here, and sins. I think a lot of you know the hamartios word. Transgressions is another pretty common word. Parapatoma. And, one of the things I really love about the Logos Bible software, and I'm sure that version 10 is even better, but, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That is a great little search function where you can go and see that word all up and down here, and you can see that that word is often translated sins or trespasses. What I wanted to go to was this Bible word study. This is one of the best things. So it brings up this Greek word here. You don't even have to really know Greek to use this. But here's the word, paraptoma, and then in the NIV over here you can see that the ways that it's translated. So you can see, yep, it's often translated just sins, it's often translated trespass or transgressions. And then what's this orange one here? Let me see what that is. When they sin against you, or something like that. And then when you click this, it actually pulls up the verses down below here that use that. So this one is just Matthew 6:14. If you forgive others when they sin against you. So your heavenly Father will also forgive you. So you can think of those who trespass against you. And so, obviously, because here you also have the word sin, you can do a little Bible word study on that one too. That one is just translated sin a ton of times. You can see 171 of the 172 times it's translated sin. And one time, for some reason, it's translated guilt. So it's probably because of the context. Yeah, John 9:41. Jesus said, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. John 9 is where Jesus heals the blind man. If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. So here the NIV, I guess the other translations would say your sin remains. And NIV is trying to help you make, sense of this in modern English, that it would have the meaning of your guilt remains, not your sin remains. Both are true. One is more the way we speak now. So these transgressions and sins in which you used to live. So this is probably going to be, what tense do we have here? An aorist tense. So if you're studying the New Testament in Greek, aorist is that kind of simple past. You used to live when you followed the ways of this world. Yeah, you used to live this way. And you can see down here, when I point at that, at the very bottom, it pops up a gloss down there. Or at least it's supposed to. It doesn't get the whole thing. The way you used to live, I can still right-click that. It's actually kind of the word for to walk, and maybe that's what that's going to say. I don't know. There's a little hyperlink there to some other verses. When you follow the ways of this world, and then this is interesting, the ruler of the kingdom of the air. Yeah, air in Greek is air. That's how, I guess that's where we get the word, is from the Greek word air. And just, anytime I see a really specific word like that, that's what I'm going to want to do a Bible word study real quick. And again, I'm not going deep into some of these. You can see up here in the top left, there's, I've got access to a whole bunch of Bible dictionaries. But here what I really want to do, and you can do this if you don't have the Bible software, it's fine. I think there's probably free stuff you can do this with. In fact, I know there is. On my phone, I use this thing called Literal Word, and then there's another one, Blue something. It's basically what you're wanting to do is just see, where is this word showing up else in the Bible, and let the Bible interpret itself a little bit, So here, the word air is used 6 of 7 times. Flinging dust into the air, very literal. Boxer beating the air, 1 Corinthians 9, the guy that's contextualization chapter there, 1 Corinthians 14:9. You will just be speaking into the air if you're kind of going crazy in your tongue speaking. Ephesians 2:2 is where we're at right now. That's the kingdom of the air. And I'm kind of just looking for, is there any negative use of the word, like this prince of the ruler of the kingdom of the air. After that, we were still able to be caught up with him in the air. That's kind of what's often thought of to be a rapture passage, although just to be a little controversial, one of the things we want to bring in is church history, and there's not a lot in church history about the rapture. It's not something the church was interested in or thinking about. It seems to be mostly a later idea. Again, hey, push back on that in the comments. The 7th angel poured out his bowl into the air, and out of the temple came a loud voice from the throne saying, "It is done." So that's an interesting one in Revelation 16:7. It still seems pretty literal. And so then we have this one word, sky, over here. Revelations 9:2. Okay. Open the abyss, smoke rose up, the sun and the sky were darkened. Okay, anyway, leaves me wondering a little bit. You could totally open up the commentary. Here, I think you could do a reference search and passage guide. That's going to pop up over here. I happen to have Very juicy commentary here, which is the New International Commentary, and that font is really small. But let's just see if we can figure out anything about what is the ruler. That includes this the ion. We didn't look that word up, but we can real quick. Oops. And let me jump back over there to Satan. Where are we at? Here's the commentary. Yeah. Normally means, the ion normally means age. It's personified here. It's certainly difficult to take it in its usual sense. The word age of this world mean, so the traditional rendering the course of this world, but it assigns an unnatural meaning. Paul sometimes uses the word cosmos as a synonym for the age, the present age dominated by the force of evil. Present evil age, yep, Galatians 1:4, that's one of my memory verses there. Came to rescue us from the present evil age. This force is personified in 2 Corinthians 4:4. That's one of my new memory verses in that group right there. The God of this age has blinded the minds of the believers. Really interesting passage. And God of this age, is that again here in 1 Corinthians 2? Yeah, let's see. So we can click on that and pull ourselves over there. I'm not sure, yeah, not the wisdom of this age or the rulers of this age who are coming to nothing. When you start to get into these texts, you start realizing, oh wait, is this talking about the demonic and about Satan? And you begin to realize that this language of rulers and dominions and stuff, I mean, you maybe kind of know that that's spiritual warfare, but it really becomes clear that, wow, the spiritual warfare stuff is absolutely thematic in the New Testament. And not to say it's not in the Old. So you used to be caught up in this world, the ways of this world, and the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit that is now at work in those who are disobedient. Because I used to learn the NASB, probably memorize this in NASB. I keep wanting to just read it in NASB in my head. But you know what I start to see here? You have world, and you have spirit or Satan or the devil. And then if you come down to verse 3, all of us also lived among them, these systems, the world and the ruler of the air. We used to live among them, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Wow. You know, bonus points if anybody can see what I'm seeing here. The world here, the flesh, that's right up here, and basically the devil, the ruler of the kingdom of the air. The world, the flesh, and the devil. That is going to take us to, I'm going to get these things wrong a lot of times because I'm just going. I'm not doing any prep for this. 1 John 2. Let's see. Yeah, so we have we have a love for God here, contrasted down in verse 15 with the love of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life come not from the Father. So the world, the flesh, and the devil are all sort of present in these different passages. So we're going to flip back to Ephesians 2. So it's interesting, those things work in conjunction together, that the culture, the world, the powers, it's not neutral. You may talk about it as neutral at a secular university, or it may be presented that way in commercials or whatever, as positive and neutral. But there is an operating force of forming us in the culture, on the internet for sure, in all forms of media. And there is demonic, sophisticated, personal, malevolent, satanic activity behind it. And that also is where our flesh lives. So is it the devil or our flesh? I would say almost always it's a combination, of those things. It's certainly never the devil and not our flesh, because he's appealing to it through world, flesh, devil. And even here it breaks that down even farther, following its desires and thoughts. Interesting. desires and thoughts. So we're just going to pull up, I think I've got this in some kind of weird mode now all of a sudden where it's not letting me out of picking the whole passage for some reason. So I'll just like kind of click out of some stuff over here, see if I can get out of that. Again, I need a tutorial. I'm not sure why it's insisting. Oh, maybe, okay, because I'm on a reference up there. Maybe I can turn that off. It's in some sort of reference mode here. Okay, let's see if that works. Desires, there we go. Desires, Bible word study. Okay, so this one's going to the English. Where's the Greek? Oh, okay, that's interesting. I was expecting like lusts, the epithumia, but here we have thelemata, thelemos, the will, following the will and desire, so the choices. And of course, those are probably overlapping concepts. Let me see if I can find my way to that word study. Okay, I'm going to get better at this, I promise. Desires and thoughts. Let's see if this one pops up more easily. There's the moose. And, okay. There's the Bible word study on that one. So for thoughts, understanding, thinking, mind. Where else is it translated? Thoughts. And one of the things, you can actually, in that little app I mentioned, the literal word, one of the things you're always looking for when you're looking for other verses is a priority on where the same word is used in the same book. Of course, in the same chapter is a big deal. Not seeing this word thoughts used anywhere else in in Ephesians, actually. In my mind, we were in 2 Corinthians. There's 2 Peter. Okay, here we go. Ephesians 4:18. Yeah, I know this passage. So, where you really get some great parallels when you find the same word in the same book. Now, you'll see that this is one of the weaknesses of the NIV, is that because it's trying to really make it into good English, you'll miss it in English that there's a connection here. Because thoughts in one verse here in chapter 2, and the same word is translated darkened in their understanding. Because they just thought it sounded better, more natural the way you would speak than darkened in your thoughts. Although to me, they would both work. So, the case can be made for a more literal translation for sure. So these are speaking about the lost, and it says they are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. And this is what was true in the past of us. Darkening of thoughts. What was it? We just looked at the blinding of the eyes of John 9. So we have the thoughts and desires. Let's go back to that desires word. Where's it? Disobedient, gratifying the cravings of our flesh, following its desires and thoughts. And I love that word cravings. I want to track that down too. Here we go. We're back in business here. Okay. Will and willing. See, and that's what the lema is normally translated that way. Here it's this rare desires. And this is the only place that the NIV translates this word desire. So going back to will and willing, you can see that out of 61 times, you got a whole bunch of gospel passages. These, God's will, Master's will, all of that. Know his will in Romans, God's will. So we're just tracking these down. We're getting into we get into Romans and 1 Corinthians. Now we're in the Pauline epistles, and so his use of the word is going to be more significant. But here we are in Ephesians, and we have a number of uses right here. So let's just click on them. Ephesians 1:1, by the will of God. Okay, that's straightforward. 1:5, I'm not sure why this is all highlighted yellow. According to his pleasure and his will. So it's still, we're looking kind of for, where's it talking about the human will? With all wisdom and understanding, he made us know the mystery of his will. Again, we're still there. The purpose of his will. 5:17. The Lord's will is, okay, doing the will of God. So it's just an interesting, I don't know if we'll sit here and camp out on it too much more, but it's the only time in Ephesians then that we have will being used, in this case, desires of human beings. And that may be part of why it only shows up as desires here. And let's just look real quick at this cravings. This is really, this is the word that is typically translated lust here. Okay. You can see epithumia, desire, lust, cravings. I guess the NIV shies away from the word lust, although it does use it right here 4 out of 38 times. But that's what you'll see in another translation. You see evil desires, and sometimes they're translating it coveting. That's interesting. Passions make sense. Eagerly, so it's maybe being used more adjectively there. Cravings right here. This is the only time it's used for cravings. Interesting. Cravings of our flesh. So you can do word searches and see those word cravings and flesh go to other places. All of us lived gratifying the cravings of our flesh, following its desires and the thoughts. And like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath. Let's just see where we've got that. So, wrath, sometimes translated anger. Here we go. Looking first down for Ephesians. So here's ours, 2:3 and 5:6. So it's very connected to that passage at 4:18. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient. So the wrath of God, coming wrath, the wrath of God, suffer wrath. I mean, this is a theme in the Bible, something Americans don't want to talk about, the wrath of God. I was thinking today about how the fruit of the Spirit are all these positive things. The fruit of the Spirit are God-likeness coming upon us as humans, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, all these really good things. I was thinking, the wrath of God is an attribute of God that is temporary. If sin wasn't around, there would be nothing for him to be wrathful about. So it's a necessary response to what is broken, and not all of those things from the fruit of the Spirit. So if we're opposing God's way and his likeness in our very being, that Ephesians 4:18 or 5:3 that we looked at, then there's a certain nature that is deserving of wrath. And Bible word study, this guy, nature. Just curious, you just have the Ephesians passage, and then you have a few other interesting ones here, but we're going to go a little faster. So we were by nature deserving of wrath, but because of his great love for us, because of his great love for us, this contrasting day right here, you were by very nature deserving of wrath. I was. But because of his great love for us, his great palus, his abounding or much love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, rich plusios, just abounding, an overwhelming amount of mercy, he made us alive with Christ. And then this is so interesting. Even when we were dead in transgressions, flip back up to verse 1, dead in your transgressions. It ties it together. He made us alive with Christ even when we were dead in transgressions. And then, we know this from our memory verses from Ephesians 2:8, for it is by grace you have been saved. Well, it's first said here, little parenthesis, see how rich in mercy and great God's love is, that he loved naturally wrath-deserving little boogers and that were just anti-God. So it is by grace you have been saved. If you're dead in your transgressions and sins, you're not doing anything. You're dead. You are gone. I mean, it's like a friend of mine said in a sermon one time, tying this passage to the Princess Bride, or is like mostly dead or whatever, or like the Monty Python, I feel like going for a walk, I'm getting better. It's no, you're not getting better. You're dead. You actually are dead. This isn't just a pretend thing. Dead in your trespasses and sins. Look at that contrast. But God, rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead. Echoes of Romans 5. You see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely would anybody give up a life or take any risk or whatever for even like an amazing righteous person. Though for a good person, somebody might possibly dare to die. I mean, it's like conceivable. But God demonstrates his love for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He died for us. So, how much more will we be saved from God's wrath through him? So I'm going to wrap this up, keep this one a little bit shorter. Let me know if you like this. I'm going to try to do better at these. That was Ephesians 2, 1 through 5, and jumping into some other passages, clunking my way through some Logos, and bless all of you, and may the Lord keep you, may his face shine on you, and may your eyes be on the text, and we'll see you next time.